That's really bright. That's a little better. And look at that. Galen's in the chat already. I don't know if you can notice, but I'm barely awake. I slept in today and then got everything set up and everything was okay. And then I fell asleep sitting here and woke up 4 minutes ago and realized, oh crap, we have to go live for October. So here we are, kind of half awake, half asleep, not really aware of what's going on, and we're live for October. How is everybody doing? Oh man, Grimy, good to see you. Oh, I forgot. I put chocolate milk in my coffee. Made myself a nice little cafe mocha for the morning. But it's cold now because, like I said, I fell asleep and just woke back up right before the live. Nathan's there. Ben's here. Dave Newman. Clint. Look at that. Everybody's popping in right away. Good to see you guys. I know Dave's going to be along. He was just putting bait in his swim. Well, here we are. It's October. It's the live. I got a nice little text from Nathan earlier this morning that said, happy live stream day. Because it's in its Google Calendar, which is really funny because it's not in mine. But it should be. It would make sense. I hope everybody's doing all right. Everybody's been out fishing. Man, this whole year has been really, really weird. We had what seemed like a really nice spring. Then it got super cold again, and then spring, and then it just went right to hot. It wasn't summer. It was just hot, and it sucked. And it got to the point where fishing wasn't fun to be out. I think this year is one of the least fish years I've ever done. Aside from the matches, which were only once or twice a month through the year, I just wasn't fishing. I wasn't going out at all. So yeah, pretty much like twice a month this year. And it's starting to hit me now because every October I get fired up with this nice, cool, wet weather. And it's just like, I really, really want to get out and fish as much as I can. But October is also when I get really busy at home with trying to wrap up things for the winter, any kind of renovations and such. So when I'm really amped up to go, I don't have time. But when I have time, I can't be bothered to go out and cook my brain in the sun. About 5 minutes before the half-hour warning, I was trying to figure out if it was live stream day. I should put it in my Google Calendar too. You know what? If it's in Nathan's, it should be in mine. It would make sense. Fishing has been really slow this summer. You know what? I'm hearing that from everybody. So part of me doesn't regret not fishing as much as I should have. Fishing twice a month, maybe, is a really, really stark contrast for somebody like me who has typically spent most of my life fishing like 3 times a week. And there's parts of it that are just like, this is driving me nuts. I hate that I'm not getting out. But at the same time, I have a million other interests and things that I also should be doing. So it's been nice to try and get some of those done this year. I've been able to kind of dabble and work on a lot of things, but not really jump into anything, including fishing. Labor Day weekend was nice to an extent. There was a little bit of a hiccup, but that was a 3-day weekend that I actually got out all 3 days and really enjoyed kind of getting a rush of just getting up, going, doing some fishing each morning, and then, heading home, spending time with the kid, doing things around the house. So I kind of got the best of both worlds of being able to accomplish things. Here we are, the very next long weekend, 3-day weekend here for Thanksgiving in Canada. And I had everything scheduled to fish this morning, tomorrow morning, Monday morning. This being the SSF for the Canadian Carp Society. I am in a team, and I fished with one of my teammates last Sunday. I did manage 2 fish and hung out with a really cool dog. But, the chance for the 3 of us to actually get together is going to be really, really tricky. So I'm hoping that this weekend I can, fish with Dave, and another session with Zoltan would be great. So today was supposed to be another social session, or solo session. I did manage to get out Tuesday after work, had 3 fish, none of which were upgrades for me. But I woke up today and I was very clearly overtired. My hands hurt, the whole works. Work was very busy this week. There was no way I was going to function enough to actually get out and fish. So I decided to start setting things up for the live. Started picking around with a few other things of tackle that I need to sort out. Thought, you know what? I'm going to make a coffee. I'm going to sit down and take a break. Watch some fishing. I clicked on a video for Preston Innovations. They do match equipment. I never saw the video start. I fell asleep in the chair, and I woke up literally 4 minutes before the live stream. So I clearly needed sleep, and it's a good thing that I didn't go this morning. But welcome. Here we are. Everybody's kind of jumping in. We're getting the chat going there. A few things have happened since we last met for our live stream in September. I'm on day 2 of 9 days off. I'm hoping to get out every day. Do it. Even if it's for an hour, do it. I'm not 1,000% convinced I'm not going to sneak out this afternoon. I missed my morning. I'm supposed to be fishing for carp, trying to get the biggest carp I can over this 10-day stretch, which ends Monday night. I'm not convinced I'm not going to sneak out with the center pin and a light float and go try to catch a sucker this afternoon for an hour. Dave Newman, out now. Dude, you live on the bank. I think if you had your computer, you could work from the bank. Every time somebody goes to get parts from you for my work, they come back. Oh, Dave was talking about this fishing. Dave was talking about this fishing. I'm like, why doesn't Dave just stay fishing? It would make sense. Yeah, you know what? Now I'm thinking I might just I might go drift a worm under a float for a sucker or something this afternoon. It may happen. 334 Outdoors, dropping in and see everybody. Look at that. The whole gang's getting here. Someone needs to pay me. Dude, work it out. Just be like, listen, I'm valuable. I bring in business, but I can bring in more business from the bank. So yeah, as I mentioned, a few things have happened since we spoke last in September, one of which was the annual CCS social. Over the last few years, this has turned into a pretty big deal for members. If you're not a member, you still have the chance to see what it's like by checking out the Canadian Carp Society YouTube channel. There's always a film made of the social. It's usually Dave who's putting it together. Sometimes I help. But it was the videos have really helped some members get an idea of what goes on when CCS members get together, and certainly in a case where 25 of them get together, it's always a great time. This year was no exception. However, I will say this year was probably the biggest party it's ever been compared to other years. We're there to fish together. We're there to be social and hang out with one another. There's always a party. And usually the Saturday we do a big barbecue and giveaways and games and stuff like that. So there's always a party within the party. This year it kicked off a day early. There was a number of members that had booked sites and actually got themselves up there to be on location before the social started. And so when the directors arrived to start organizing and set everything up for the next day, when most members do arrive, there was already people there. And it turned into a party from the hop. And everybody was carrying on and having a good time. And that did not end until the moment the last one of us left the campsites. It was a great time. It really was. There was fish caught. There was huge highs. There was huge lows. There was crazy things that happened. There was a pizza that was cooked upside down. That was a thing that happened. And we still ate it. And it was still good. And that part has been bothering me since. I ate an upside down pizza and it was still good. And I don't know what part of other things I had consumed made it that good, or if it was just that I was still hungry. I don't know. But being up in Long Sault on the St. Lawrence, that's my happy place. I really love being there, and being there with all those anglers, all those fellow members of the Canadian Carp Society. That was a rush, as it always is. But this year was just another step up. It just keeps getting better and better. Dave and I didn't even set the bivvy up for the whole weekend. Threw a tarp up off the side of the van and just camped. Just laid out in the open on our bed chairs, and I was wrapped in my sleeping bag. He was covered in all kinds of weird blankets. We had the breeze blowing through. We were just out in the open, and it was a beautiful weekend for weather, so that worked out great. Like everybody was there. Everybody was there that's always at those socials. So the only time we see some of these people is that event every year. There was a bunch of new members that hadn't been there before. There was some longtime members who came for the first time. It really, really was an absolute great time and a lot of fun. And like I said, there was like 18 fish caught or something like that over the course of the whole time we were there. Like from the time that some of us get up there the day early, right till we left, there was like 18 fish caught to 25 people. And keep in mind that some people put their lines out, but they weren't there to fish. So yeah, a really good time. If you haven't been to the CCS social and you are a member, I will say this: when it comes time for tickets to go on sale, there's plenty of mention of it on the site for weeks leading up to it. You get a countdown of like this many days and then this many days. And then, it's tomorrow at this time. They sell fast. And I genuinely wish we could have a venue that could hold 50 people, because we could fill those spots in 2 hours. No problem. Tickets go like that. And if you want to be in on it, got to be a member. So watch for the new film for this year's excursion. I know that's being edited. It was actually being edited while it was shot, which was really cool to see. But it led to us seeing clips of things that it was like, how did you capture that? And there's footage that I have seen that will never make it into the film, I don't think, that I could have done without seeing, but oh my God, was it hilarious that I saw it. But yeah, watch that film when it comes out. If you haven't seen the previous ones, they're on the Canadian Carp Society YouTube channel. Check them out. You get a good idea of how much fun everybody's having, the camaraderie of being on the bank. Some people are doing like little rig clinics with each other. I'll never forget the year we were up there, and Tyler, who runs the Niagara Fishing Forum, niagarafishing.net, I believe it is. Tyler, you guys have seen him in the chat quite a bit. There was a time he was like, "Oh, can you kind of show me how to tie a chod rig and show me how you put that together?" Because I always use chod rigs on the St. Lawrence. And when I was setting everything up, and he come over, he hands me his setup, and he's like, "Here's the chod rig I tied." and it was as good or better than the one I was going to show him that I was tying. Like he didn't need a lesson. He had it. He worked it out. You see that a lot where it's just people have just kind of gotten into a groove of doing something and figure something out, but they think they need to do it better. And then they realize, nope, I got it. So it's just you get that nice confident moment of, you don't need help. You're good. I love that. I love it when that happens. Pack bait ballers. I need to join. I miss fishing that place. You do need to join. You're a social angler, first and foremost. You get along well with everybody. You're also somebody that when there is something going on, you're always the first one willing to step in and help. You absolutely need to be part of this. How you've not become a member at this point, I don't know. This is the place for somebody like you. 100%. Always has been. Yeah, you would blend very well with this crowd. It's funny too, because with the match group that I've been fishing with, you would blend incredibly well with that group also. One member, I would say one or two members in particular, you would gel with incredibly well. I will join this summer coming. Well, your membership's a year long. Join now. Don't wait till summer. The year's half over at that point. So yeah, the social was awesome, and made some new friends with some of the new members we hadn't met yet. Got to see some old ones. Peter Weldon was there. I'm sure many of you guys know who that guy is. He's kind of like a legend here in Southern Ontario. He's done all different types of fishing all through this area. Everybody knows him. He has won our Angler of the Year Mentor Award for a couple years in a row now. He even made it to the social, and he had a blast. That was a great time. And I'm fiddling with things, and I just found a loose screw on my desk. I'm gonna have to fix that. You'll join next Friday. Do it. You don't have to go with the pro membership. There's two levels. And this is not just to Clint. This is to anybody who hasn't joined yet. There's two levels to join the Canadian Carp Society. There's your basic membership and your pro level membership. I'm actually going to try and bring them up if I can. I'll probably have to log out to do it. One of the key things that are important is that both memberships give you exactly the same access to everything on the site. The pro membership, the difference there is that you get a shirt and like sticker rig sort of thing. Like you get a little pack of merch when you join. That's the difference between pro and basic. So if you're on a budget, you can join at your basic level. And I never log out, so I don't actually know where the option to log out is. Bear with me for a moment. But your access to the feed, the groups, the contests, all of that, both levels have access to everything. If you're in the US or abroad in the UK, the basic membership is going to be best for you because we can't, it's not always practical to ship like the shirt and things like that to everybody. Okay. Just looking at for this year's prices right now, our prices haven't changed in the time that we've had this going for like 5 years now. So it's $35 a year for your basic package or your standard membership. And then the pro membership, which has all the merch stuff and it's for Canadians only, is $65. Literally the difference is you get your shirt and your goodie bag pack. I think sometimes it might be a hat as well. It's not always a shirt. But you get your merch pack with the additional $35 or $30 in the purchase. but what your experience on the site is exactly the same for both levels. I think that's important to mention. Not only that, but if you're somebody who really likes to participate, to be involved and participate, all the articles, videos, all of that stuff on the site is by members. So if you want to write an article, submit it, and as long as it's clearly like smooth to read, has all the right details in it, it'll go up on the site. If there's anything that's an issue with it, one of the admins will go over that with you, and we'll make sure that everything works out so you can have an article up. Same goes for videos. All that matters is everybody's doing the right fish care. Your photos are showing fish being treated in a respectful way, and the same with other members. If it's just a picture of me picking up a fish and slapping it across Dave's face, yeah, that's funny, but nobody wants to see that because it's not good for the fish. But Dave would laugh at that. Sounds good, Clint. If you have any other questions, let me know. And that goes for anybody else. You can always reach out if you have questions about this. You can reach out to the Canadian Carp Society on Instagram. Just drop a private message to them or me directly. We can answer. That absolutely is a great idea because, well, yeah, those of us that have kind of known you since then kind of have a good idea what that story is. There are people that would love to read that for sure. Okay. What else has happened? Something interesting. If you guys go like 4 years back, something like that, you guys might remember I bought the 10-foot 3-pound test curve Witchwood extricator MLT rods. They had the cork handles, and I coupled them with the Witchwood extricator 5000 FD reels. I did a review video, which for some reason still gets a ton of views. And in that review video, I talked about how much I like the rods. Tim, there's Tim. You know what? If Doug was here, we'd have everybody. Oh, Clint's got to get ready for work. Okay, you go get ready for work, and then you can watch the rest of this after. Tim's here now, so it's okay. Everything's all settled now. We can have a few people drop off. Tim's here. It's all good. But yeah, sorry. The Witchwood rods. In that review video, I talked about how much I love the rods and how well performing the rods and the reels were. That for the most part, everything that was going on in that review video when I talked about those items has not changed. In terms of the rods, still to this day, absolutely adore those rods. Of my 3-pound test curve rod, well, really, of all the rods I have, when I want to use a 3-pound rod, I take those ones out. I love using them in places where I'm going to be chasing slightly smaller fish, kind of like that mid-range fish, or if I'm on the big river, spots where I just don't have room for the 12 or 13 footers. I have 10-pound 3.5 test curve rods, but like the swim that I've been fishing this week, it's a little bit much. They're a little bit too beefy. I'm fishing a shallow pool in fast current, close in, right under the rod tips. Just to the left of that, there's this long run of big boulders before it opens up again. If I use a stiffer rod or a longer rod, things aren't balanced right for that swim. The 10-foot rods allow me to kind of stay back a little bit. So there is, like a slight angle going out to the spot instead of being straight down. Having used longer rods there before, I find that it upends the pods because of the weird angle. If I use a stiffer rod, when I set the hook, I have more fish come off. I don't get the hook holds. These rods have worked out perfectly for the swim that I'm in, and you get that right balance of softness in the rod tip, where it's forgiving on the the really hard takes that you get. Quite often, double and triple takes in this spot. It's insane. But also the good playability and the good backbone to be able to swing these fish as they go out. Wow, that looks really weird. As they go out and around those boulders, just the right backbone to help control and steer them, and then bring them back up the current into the net. But still forgiving, where you get a really nice battle curve. I don't have to drop my drag too much. So when I have to bring, like, I'm kind of like walking the dog and bringing them back upstream to swing them around into the net instead of chasing them all the way down, which I do a lot of. But I think that's more of a problem with, I just have fun doing that. The rods have just always performed right. They're the right kind of rod that I need for a lot of situations that I'm fishing in. So the Witchwood Extricator MLT rods, 10-foot, 3-pound test curve, cork handle, beautiful. Love them to bits. Absolutely zero complaints about those. I actually have 4 of them. I love them that much. Actually, I have a 4th one because when I was purchasing the 3rd one, there was a whole mix-up. I ended up ordering 2 third ones because one didn't show up, and I ordered from somewhere else, and then that one showed up, and then that one showed up, and then I had 4. However, you guys will probably remember 2 years ago now, like this week, 2 years ago, there was a session, and fishing with Dave during this week every year is always an absolute treat. He works really hard to bait up the spots that we fish, and it's always been absolutely insane, like triple run after triple run, where you can't keep rods in the water. And I went there, and I got there one session ahead of him, like an hour or 2 before he arrived. I was into the fish right away, and I think the way I described it before was, it was like I got all 3 rods in. One went, then the other one went. I got that one in the net. The other one went. While I was playing that one went. I landed 2 out of 3 fish. One was like a mid-30. One was just a flip it out at the net. And the one that I lost was had to be one of the biggest carp I've ever fought, with a tail that come out like that and wrapped me in a rock and broke off. However, that fight also damaged the reel. Whether it was just the way I was trying to crank it around or what happened, the thumb screw, I'll explain how it seemed like it was more to it than just a thumb screw in a minute. But the cap for the thumb screw had slipped open. The screw came out, and I couldn't use the reel handle. In that particular case, I then decided, okay, well, I'm going to have to find the spare part. I reached out to Lita, which is a company it's like the parent company of Witchwood. And I did talk about this when that happened. They flat out said they don't make spare parts for the reel. And if they did, they didn't send them to Canada, which was a real kick in the nuts. I did not like that at all. Like, it's a thumb screw. Drop it in an envelope as a personal favor. I'll pay the shipping. Doesn't have to be like a corporate thing. But that was the response I got. And then that basically made the reel useless. So I bought a 4th reel. So I had a functioning one for the 3 rods at the very least. And then I would just have to use this for parts because it didn't have a handle. The reason I didn't think it was just as simple as buying a new thumb screw was there's a little white plastic piece in there as well, with a little bit of a gearing on it, or some nodules on it, that meet up into the zinc part opposite it in that space. So it all like tightened down and turned in unison. When this came off, that piece was also really adhered into there. So it made me see that as a unique thumb screw. And I never thought anything of it. I tried every other reel I have in this house. I have probably 50 like antique and older reels that I used in the 80s, things like that. I tried the thumb screws in them. None of them would work. None of them would fit right. At that point, I gave up on it, just being as simple as Dave Newman, number 4. What did I miss? What do you mean? I don't know what number 4 means. Yeah, I gave up on thinking it was just as simple as like ordering a new thumb screw, because I couldn't get anything else this morning. Oh, you're getting fish. Oh, okay. Never mind. We'll all just ignore Dave. He's catching fish. Too bad you couldn't put the picture of the fish in the chat. I wish that was a thing. But yeah, if I can go through every other reel I have in this house of every style and every type, and no other thumb screw will fit, there's no point in looking for a new thumb screw. I need that thumb screw. So I left it be. This past Tuesday, I went after work trying to get me an upgrade for the SSF, and I didn't get an upgrade, but I hooked a fish that fought harder than any fish I fought this year. This fish fought like an absolute tank. It was an awesome battle. It stayed on the spot to the point where I thought it's holding, it's big. I quickly kind of held that rod down, cranked in the other line, because in that swim now I only fish 2 rods. It's just not safe to fish a third. You won't get all 3. Cranked that other rod in, and then this fish took off downriver. I chased it. I'm standing in amongst those big boulders in my waders with the current smashing up against me. Kind of got the net kind of hanging off my shoulder. I played this fish back, and just as I got it to the net and I went to do the last crank, it just started spinning. The handle was now floppy and useless, much like me to my wife in some cases. We've all been there, but the reel handle was just no good. So I kind of just held the line above the spool and hoped he didn't take another run, spun it, put it in the net. It was a 15-pounder. That was so unbelievably disappointing, that the fish was as small as it was. I would have put money on it that fish was 35, 36 pounds, the way it fought. It did everything a big fish does when you set the hook. Just sits there, shaking its head, holding on the spot, going upriver. Anybody who knows the fish in the Niagara River, if you hook something big, it always goes upstream. The big fish very rarely go downstream. This fish held its own. It was in that current holding. It took off like a shot when it did go for a run, and it took me ages to bring it back. It was clear water, but it was nighttime, and I didn't have my headlamp on, because every time I did shine it and I would get a glimpse of the fish, it would bolt again. So it was one of those ones where just keep the light off until you swing it in the net. Going off of moonlight, basically, just ambient light kind of that was there. Funny enough, while I was playing that fish, it always happens when I'm in this swim, but I always see somebody, a cop car chase somebody on the American side. Somebody always gets pulled over for speeding or something every time I'm in that swim. It's pretty wild. But yeah, this fish was small, but it was an awesome battle. Like, it has earned that. It was a hell of a fight. So I made sure that I took extra time to release that fish, made sure it recovered. I kept it in the net, just kind of outside of the flow for about 20 minutes to get a full recovery. And then it took off beautifully. And I grabbed that reel, and the exact same thing happened. The thumb screw handle split. The screw came out. Again, it was useless. But what I noticed was the white little piece of plastic. I don't know if it's like a PTFE or whatever, that fits into the little gearing in the zinc part, wasn't on the screw. So I thought, oh crap, now I'm really screwed. Why isn't it on there? And when I pulled everything apart, the white piece was actually still, it had slid down the screw and was still in the reel. So then I could see that, okay, this is a separate piece. So I took measurements of the screw, 16 millimeters long. It's like 3 millimeters in diameter for the screw, fine thread. I'm like, I have some of these at work. So I thought to myself, well, if that white piece is a separate piece and I can get the right screw, maybe I can fashion another like a cap out of steel. Because at work I'm fabricating and I can weld something real quick. So I thought to myself, okay, I'm gonna try and make one at work. And just for schnitz and giggle, I went on Amazon and poked around with those measurements, looking up thumb screws with those measurements, and they're everywhere. And I even found one that had, aside from the white cap, it had the similar inner shape. So if you look inside the split one, you guys probably won't be able to see that, but you can see there's like an inner piece that attaches to the screw and then a big hollow all the way around it. That was another part that made this unique, where that thumb screw actually went in. None of the other reels I have in this house do that. They're all just like an outer cap that kind of hug on the outside. That piece pushes that little white piece into where it sits, and marries into that zinc part of the handle, where everything threads together. So that's another thing that made it unique. But poking around on Amazon, same measurements, all the same details, and the same little recessed piece in there. Maybe you can't see that. You guys can see that now. See how there's like that recessed piece in that hollow that's there? $5 on Amazon. I got a bag of 10 of them. Fits perfectly. So now not only is that reel finally up and running, but the other one that broke on Tuesday, now that's fixed. So now I have 4 Witchwood rods, 4 Witchwood reels. Everything is all good. I can go back to using these no problem without any concern. And if one of these Amazon ones splits, crap, I got 8 more. But one of those Witchwood rods that I have has never been used. It's never had a reel on it because I only had 3 functioning reels at any given time. So the nice thing is I can take Zane out. We'll do 2 on my pod, 2 on his pod, and that could be a good time. Or if I'm fishing like an intense session or something like that, where I can always have 1 at the ready, I'll do that. But it's just crazy after a couple years of headaches and disappointment and thinking I, was resourceful enough to try and get a replacement. It all came down to $5 on Amazon, just putting in the right measurements, simply because I missed that one part wasn't firmly attached. I never tried to take that out of there. So there's a very long-winded story to explain that now all my Witchwood reels are fixed. However, this reel is missing something important. So on the Witchwood reels that I have, the silver spools have mono, and I have 3 gold spools that have braid. I also made a point of buying the gold spools because at that point, nobody else I knew had gold spools on their reels. And this was a cheap reel. Well, a budget-friendly reel. It's not cheap by any means. Everything else about this reel, aside from that thumb screw, everything else about this reel is awesome. I really liked the gold spools and I wanted them. So I bought 3. And at that time, the only place I could get them was from a shop in Northern Ireland, which doesn't exist anymore. It was bought out by Angling Direct and then just closed. I think it was Angling Direct. It was one of those ones. And then because of the thumb screw issue, all that, I just never had a need for a 4th. Well, guess what? Now I need a 4th gold spool. And I don't think these reels are made anymore. They are nowhere. If you go on eBay UK, You can find the reels, mostly brand new of people who still have stock left. And you can find some used that people are selling in sets of 3 for the same price that they are new, which I find pretty ridiculous. If it's used, sell it for a better price. You'll sell it. It'll happen. Some of these have been on there listed for a couple weeks. But nobody has the gold spools. At the time when I was buying the reels and buying the gold spools, anywhere where you did find the reel, you found that they had tons of the gold and black and silver spools in stock. Not even on eBay can I find a gold spool for sale. If anybody knows where I can get a Witchwood Extricator 5000 FD reel gold spare spool, let me know. I want it. The spools are typically around $20, and it's usually about the same in shipping for that little thing. But I need a gold spool. And in the last 3 days of trying to track one down, I have found one guy selling 3 reels with 2 spare black spools and 1 spare gold spool. He won't separate the gold spool. He wants to sell it all as a package. I don't need 3 more reels. I just need 1 spool. But yeah, I'm pretty excited that that's fixed, even though I feel like a complete idiot having it taken it so long to sort out the fix. But like you can see, they're almost identical in every way for a couple of bucks from a little Chinese shop on Amazon. It's insane. But there we go. If you guys, I know there's some of the people that kind of pop in the chat or are watching and don't go in the chat that are in the UK. If your local shop has one of those gold spools, send it. just send it. We'll figure out a way to get it. Yeah, get your shop to shoot me a message. Be like, here's a couple bucks. Send it to me direct from the shop. Yeah, that's exciting. But yeah, all that kind of fix came from having this happen again during the SSF. Just like it did a couple years ago when I broke the first one. Except last time it was on an absolutely massive fish, and this time it was on one that half the time we don't even take it out of the water to take a picture. But the SSF is proving to be another good one for October. I've been keeping up on the leaderboards. You know, all the weight submissions come in, and they come into the admit line, and then I enter them all in the leaderboards as updates each day, usually in the morning before I go to work. There's some big fish already entered this season. In the solo division, there's a few 30s already, several 30s already. In the team division, there's 4 teams competing. The team that I'm on with Dave and Zoltan we're the big dogs, which is a play on words because Zoltan is a dog trainer, and it seems like he has a different dog with him every time he's fishing. And Dave has a dog. Mine's gone, but I love dogs. It was just the right choice for a team name. Well, my teammates are doing better than I am in terms of their catches. They've actually had quite a few more fish than me so far for the SSF. I've had 5 fish topping out at 18 pounds in the time that I've had 2 sessions now for the SSF. I think Zoltan's got a 24 up on the board and Dave's got a 19. So we're leading in the teams division, but we're leading only because the other 3 teams have not yet entered a fish going into this weekend. So they will this weekend, no doubt. So the updates are going to happen very quickly each day between today, tomorrow, and Monday before it ends. So we're actually hoping that we can hold our own, but we're going to do some fishing tomorrow and Monday and make a point of getting some upgrades that are very much needed. given that Zoltan has recently smashed his PB a couple of times, like in a span of like 2 weeks, that was absolutely amazing to see. We can jump into another funny story here if you want. And this is a funny story involving Zoltan's PB. And specifically what was going on when I received the text that had the photo of Zoltan's PB. It was during the social, and it was kind of late in the evening. The beers were flowing, the music was cranked, the food was being passed around, everybody was having a great time. And where was I? I was 200 yards away from the campsite, answering the call of nature in the facilities at the park. It's amazing to me how many great fishing moments happen for other people while I am pooping. I don't get it. It happened with Demir's mirror. It's happened with many of Goldie's fish. If I have to be away during a moment, that's the moment. It's weird. But Zoltan was fishing in his spot. He wasn't at the social, unfortunately, but he was fishing at his spot, and I got this message, and it was just like it was one of those moments where you're supposed to be quiet in this facility, and I let a little bit of oh yeah, which is probably not the best thing to say while that's happening. But anyway, I did make my way back to the campsite, and the first thing I did was I went to our buddy Ben, who I think I saw Ben in the chat there, who is just 3 sheets to the wind. He was having a great time at that point. Immediately went to Ben, showed him the pictures that Zoltan had just sent. I showed Kevin the picture because he's the only person that I know of that would know as many of the big fish that have been caught off the upper Niagara in the time that we've fished it, with Kevin and I living so close and having fished it quite thoroughly. As of right now, this is the biggest one we know of to come out of any of these spots. And it was an absolute tank of 36 and change. Absolute tank. It's funny when you look at pictures of people holding fish, because when you know the size of that person, if they're bigger people, sometimes the big fish look small. If they're tiny people, a mid-sized fish looks huge. Zoltan's taller than me. I wouldn't say we have the same build, but we're both big guys. And him holding this fish, it still looked massive. And yeah, it was hard to hear that the weight was only 36 and change. You could look at that fish with him holding it and think that's over 40. It's a big fish. It looks like one of those fish that in the spring during the spawn, this fish is probably 10 pounds heavier, which is exciting to think about. Even if it's 5 pounds heavier, that puts it up in that giant fish class for us here in Canada. So very, very exciting that he's done so well in his spot. And, a huge congratulations goes out to him, I'm sure, from all of us on getting his new PB. But that was a great message to receive at the social, where so many of us at once could look at it and just start cheering him on, even though more than half of these guys had never met Zoltan before. Ben had fished with him a number of times. I had visited him on the bank many times, didn't fish with him for the first time until this past Sunday. And he brought Bo along, a little French bulldog that was just awesome. He was so friendly. But Zoltan knows what he's doing. He's put in the work on every swim that he's tried. From what I've seen, this is somebody that's the right kind of carp angler that puts in the work, makes the effort, figures things out. And when they do get stuck, they list off what they've done to get to where they are before they ask their question. They don't just say, how do I do this? How do I do this? Zoltan's somebody that has the right mindset and the right kind of angler that I like interacting with, because that you're giving any information that can help to somebody who's definitely going to utilize it in the right way. They're going to be good with the fish. They're going to be good with the environment. They're going to pick up after themselves. It's the right kind of angler we need on the bank. So huge congratulations to Zoltan for his new PB. Now we just need another one that size for the SSF, and we'll definitely lock in our chance at winning. So Zoltan, you're going to be hitting the bank soon if you're not there already. Let me just check my chat here, my other chat. No, nothing from him yet this morning, so he might be there. Actually, I have a number of messages from the guys in the match club that I haven't read yet. Oh, he has. Okay, let's see here. Okay, I have all kinds of messages that I'm going to have to get to after. But seeing messages there from the match club, I am going to have to read those, which is funny because it comes into my next topic on my list. Before I move on, though, anybody have any questions that you haven't put in the chat yet? There's always somebody that has something to ask, or, you know, if you're somebody who has never participated in the chat, but you are watching, if you got questions, throw them in there. If it's not something that I can answer, I can guarantee you somebody in that chat can for sure. The teenager's up. Zane's awake. That means I'm going to have to, I think I'm going to make him do some yard work this afternoon. He hates raking leaves. Absolutely hates raking leaves. We can get him to rake leaves today. So yeah, the match fishing club, the match season, most of my fishing this year has been the whole match thing. Not just in matches, but the match style. The first episode of me chasing the buffalo, you can see I was using the match equipment. The second episode that's coming up, same location, same gear, a better session, definitely a better session. And then things change for episode 3 and 4. They change in a big way. Episode 3 is a very exciting location and a crazy time. Episode 4, another location still, completely different tackle. So stick with that series as it comes out, you guys. I hope you really liked the first episode. That was just kind of things to kick things off back in June. But episode 2 coming up is, I think, a couple of days later. Much better session with a lot more fish. And then 3 and 4 is where things get a little bit crazy. So episode 2 of that is coming up. But yeah, that's the equipment that I've been kind of using for 90% of my fishing this year. With the SSF, obviously I switch over to the full-on carp gear. I was only fishing 2 rods just because of the location I was in. But I have to say, you know, putting the full effort in this year to the match style, it was incredibly rewarding in terms of being able to learn new things, adapt to a different way of feeling for fish, watching for fish. You're not just looking at one species for their behavior, and it makes it very intense when you put your time restrictions on you. So going out and practicing, you know, I did a few practice sessions where Justin and I went to some of the locations like 2 weeks before the match to get a practice in. And we would put the similar time constraint on us that we would have in a match. So you have that 5 hours, 6 hours to figure things out. And in a couple of those sessions, you would go thinking it's just going to be the 2 of you, and then like 5 or 6 guys from the match club show up, and that turns out to be like a mini match without it being a match, of everybody just kind of trying to figure things out. So I will say this, if nothing else, the Match Club has proven to be a very social network for anglers, both with like pre-fishing and in the match scenario. And it's a great group of people. It really is. And I've had a lot of fun doing it. Fishing with the feeder rods has been absolutely awesome. It's weird to have gotten so used to fishing with 3 rods all the time to go back down to just 1 and still have that much fun. Using the waggler and learning more about fishing with that. I thought I kind of had float fishing figured out. This really is different in the way you do your shot, the way you set your rigs to either be on the deck or off the bottom. Accounting for the distance of the float, which I never really had to do before, because I usually fish flow. That this is still fishing, so you're being very, very cautious and light, and it's proven to be very interesting. Where I've actually saved myself in a lot of the matches that we were doing because I couldn't get things working on the feeder rod, I couldn't get things working on the pole. Switch to a waggler, and boom, I'm getting 10 and 12 pound carp doing that. So I've actually saved myself in positions going from a blank or 7th or 8th and put myself in 2nd in a couple of cases, just because I switched to the waggler, and that made a difference. And learning the pole fishing has been wild. Oh, he's having a hard time with his game now. I can hear him throwing a tantrum. Yeah, getting a 6 to 10 pound carp on number 11 elastic. This, for example, is number 11 elastic. When you don't have a reel and you just have a long carbon pole and a piece of this elastic attached to your rig with like a really light line and a really small hook, and then that fish just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes, and it stretches that much to the point where in some cases the elastic stretched so much I was fighting these fish that are 30 yards away. It seems maybe not necessarily 30, but certainly like 20 yards away, just stretching the elastic way out. And you're like, how is my line not broken? What am I going to do? And it's led to some pretty crazy battles to get the fish in the net. But oh man, is that fun. The pole fishing is amazing for fishing precise. Like, here's a bowl from my oatmeal a couple hours ago. You bait up a spot this size and you fish in the center of it with the pole every time. It's that precise. You can be that careful because you're holding everything so perfectly. And precision wise, there's no better way. It's unbelievable. But fun wise, this long, big carbon pole and the elastic stretched out and the fish flopping around. I had a great pre-match session fishing for rudd and carp and suckers with the pole. And I did great. Had a great day of fishing with like Lyle and Justin and Brian. I think Yevon was there that day. We had a great time. It was a lot of fun. And it was a lot of good practice, which didn't help us in the last match. Both Lyle and I struggled. Lyle technically, I think he had a goby. I think that was all he caught all day after 2 weeks prior catching like 25 pounds in rudd and F1s and stuff like that. I ended up with, the prey fishing. I had like 11 pounds in the final match, the championship match that we just had last weekend. I think I ended up with 11 ounces. I just had some sunfish and a rudd. I didn't do well at all. And both Lyle and I were pretty much in the same spot that we had it fished in practice. So everything we did should have worked. It didn't. It was just a really tough day. And it was just a few big fish scattered throughout the whole field of 12 anglers that made it to the championship match. So we'll discuss that. We got Grimy. My mini-me is out in the yard pulling weeds of his own volition. He was trying worm grunting after watching a YouTube video, but he doesn't have a notched stick. I've never tried worm grunting. When I was a kid, what we did was incredibly dangerous and stupid. You dumpster dive for old appliances and you got the electrical cords off, and you split the cords out and you wrap the cords around a piece of cut coat hanger, and you put some wood dowel over that and taped it all up and stuck them in the ground and plugged the cord into the wall, and you electroshocked worms out of the soil that way. I can't even tell you how often we shocked ourselves doing that. It was dangerous. It was stupid. And you could actually commercially buy those worm shocking things to do that. Like, that was a thing back then, through the 70s and 80s. Yeah, we made our own and did that. And there was a few times where it was just like, we really shouldn't be doing this anymore, before we finally stopped. I've seen worm grunting done in person, but not had any results. I've watched it on videos where it seems to work, but I've never tried it. So, Grimy, you'll have to do an Instagram post if it works, because I want to see that. That'll be cool. You're never sharing that story with them. This is the internet. It's out there. If he wants to look up ways of getting worms, there's no doubt that he's either already stumbled across a video of somebody doing that stupid idea, or he will. But yeah, that's what we did. It worked. Not always, but it did work. We did get worms quite often doing that. Once I learned that you could just hose the yard down and then go out after dark and just pick them up off the. Once I learned that, there was no going back. But yeah, if you get it to work, definitely post it. I bet catching a mess of suckers on that pole would both be tasty and fun. I've never eaten suckers. I know a lot of people, when I lived up north, a lot of people ate suckers. They would go during the spring run and they would pickle suckers in big jars throughout the year. I don't like anything pickled. So obviously I never tried that, but I've never eaten sucker myself. I've heard a lot of people like it. But catching suckers and rudd on the pole is a ton of fun. It really is a lot of fun. Definitely, I enjoyed that. Now, I have heard through the grapevine. I've mentioned a couple times already. You guys have seen maybe some posts and some things I've mentioned in the live streams. Carp Kit's starting to carry very small little smattering of match gear, which he's hoping to build a little bit more of over time. There's some match baits on there. The little match kits from OMC, Alahimides company. I actually have purchased both kits, the float kit and the feeder kit, and I went to start filming during my practice session for that last championship match. I went to start filming a product review, but the only way I could catch fish was on the pole that time. So that product review is on hold till maybe next week or something. But they're very nice kits. I will say that there are very, very nice kits. With that said, with Carp Kit kind of like amping some of that up, which is very exciting. I've heard through the grapevine that Big Carp Tackle will also be doing the same. They're going to be introducing some match gear soon. I don't know when, but I heard that they're going to be carrying products from Nitro. I believe Nitro is owned by the same parent company as Sonic. I believe that's something I read yesterday. Kind of covered that, how it's all like under one umbrella. But Nitro's slowly building, not even slowly, they're quite quickly building a name in the match scene with their products. Seat boxes, feeder equipment, all that stuff. They're doing a little bit of everything: hooks, lines, pre-tied rigs, all that. Nitro seems to be having their hands in everything. Match fishing. I've heard through the grapevine that Big Carp Tackle is going to be carrying Nitro products, I think, for next year. So if they end up with a pole at that shop, you might be able to try it yourself in some of your spots, which could be interesting. But yeah, I was going to mention the championship match. Keep mentioning the practice for it, and I've already mentioned how Lyle and I both did not finish well in that final match, kind of compared to how our practice went. However, we did manage to hold our positions for the overall, which was very exciting. So there's been a point system throughout the season in the match club. I don't personally understand it because I've not really taken the time to ask or understand it, but Brian and Justin kind of have all that figured out with the way they manage things. We did 11 matches through the season. So like 11 official scheduled matches through the season, starting in the spring. So when you guys saw me do the video in the spring, fishing carp on the feeder from the shitter, that was a pre-fish session done for that first match of the season. And that first match I blanked. Sucked. Again, it was another one of those ones where it was like everybody that went and did practice loved it, had a great time, went for the actual match, went for a shit. But we did 11 matches through the season, and there was a point system accrued for how you finished. So where your place was, and also the weights of your fish through the season. Much to my surprise, you know what? We'll go with more than surprise. I was actually blown away that going into the championship match, it turned out that I was sitting in third for points. So Justin was sitting in first, which is not surprising. He has a knack for winning matches. Lyle was sitting in second, which was not a surprise. He's won or finished in like the top 3 in a number of matches, and he's done really, really well. Him and I both kind of started getting on like the pole fishing and learning that at the same time, kind of through last year. And this year we both went really hard at making sure we're using them as much as possible. He used them a lot more in like practice fishing than I did. I just did some kind of pleasure fishing with it just to play around. But it was very clear that those two guys were going to be, in the top 2. No doubt in my mind. I was blown away to see that I was only a couple points behind Lyle going into the championship match, and I was sitting in third for the season out of the club. And I the reason I was blown away is because there is a lot of really, really good anglers in this club. Not everybody fished all 11 matches. I think Justin and I were the only ones to actually fish all 11, which probably is what helped me. I had more matches to kind of pull my positions from than some of the other people that, if they only fished 5 matches, because I think it was your top 5 finishes for the year. So because I had 11 to draw from, if you only fished 5 matches and didn't place well, you didn't get near the top, which was a shame because some of those guys were really, really good. But because I had fished 11, I had that, 6 more sessions to try and get like a top 3 finish to earn the right points to have a good top 5 finishes. So going into the championship match, Justin, Lyle, and myself were the top 3, followed very quickly by a number of other anglers that had very close points to mine. I think Yevon was like 1 point behind me. So it was a pretty close race once you got into the kind of that middle range there. We fished really hard. And like I said, it was not a good day. There was no flow. The water was not moving the way it had been in practices. So the fish weren't behaving the same way. And it was really hard to kind of get on them or draw them to your spot. However, when all was said and done, I did have fish in the net. Yeah, I think Yevon had some fish in the net. Lyle had a goby. That was it. Justin did really well. He lost 2 really big fish during his match. He still managed to pull out the first for that match, but he lost 2 really big ones that would have really made a difference on his bag. When all was said and done and all the points were tallied up, Justin still maintained his first place position for the team, or for the club for the season. Lyle maintained second. I maintained third, but Yevon was able to jump up a place and actually tied me for third. And then there was also, I think, a tie for 5th place. Overall, it was wild to finish in the top 3. Only 2.5 years into actually doing match fishing, and my first proper season where I had all the right gear, was fishing it the right way, fished every match. It was rewarding. It was rewarding in a lot of ways, where it was fun. It was social, which is important. And it was a good time trying new things, and a lot of new venues as well. We tried a bunch of different venues. So it was really, really cool and exciting to kind of look back at my season and say, you know what? I finished in the top 3. Oh. Sorry, my wife's calling me. I'm hoping it's not an emergency. Let me just shoot a message right quick here. I'll just see if I quickly get a message back and if I have to wrap up the stream. But yeah, that's how the season kind of went. I think there's still going to be one more of the like just a little pickup match, but beyond that, okay, no emergency. We're just doing I think there's going to be a pickup match coming up on the 19th for just those who couldn't go to the championship match, because it was just restricted to the top 12 places. And that'll probably kind of wrap up the season. But yeah, a lot of fun. 3rd overall for the season for the club. I don't know if I'm going to top that next year. I don't think I can, not against the anglers I'm fishing against. But I guarantee you, with those matches next year, I'm definitely going to have a lot of fun, for sure. So if you have some match anglers in your area, why not start a social group? Get together, have some little social matches. Then maybe we could have like club versus club matches in the future if other little clubs pop up throughout Southern Ontario. That could be a lot of fun. It's definitely something to think about, for sure. There's a video on how to catch and cook them in the South. Well, in the South, you guys eat a lot of cool things in different ways. So I might have to check some of that out. The first time I saw someone pole fishing was in a live stream in the UK match in the Fishing Streams channel about 2 years ago. And now I want one for crappie fishing and brush piles. So for crappie fishing and brush piles, yeah, the pole seems like it's going to be a great idea. But I actually have there's something called a whip, which is like a pole, but there's no elastic in it. It's just a long line. Think about like a bamboo cane pole. If any of you guys have fished with those, 334 Outdoors, probably when you were a kid. Certainly when I was a kid, I had a bamboo cane pole that I made out of like a really long stretch of bamboo, with just a long string line, a float, a little jig or a worm or whatnot. You can get these made out of the same materials as the poles, but it's just one long telescopic thing. I have a couple of them that are like 5 meters. I bought those specifically so I could try fishing them for crappie around bridges and around brush piles that I can't quite reach from the bank. Maybe looking at the whip avenue for panfish is the way to go. It's certainly why I bought mine. I haven't had time to go out and do a a proper video doing it yet. I know Dave and his daughter have been using a 3-meter whip, so about a 12-foot whip. You guys would have seen them in the video we did last year, whip fishing for small carp. Or Dave did that kind of off the back of a little challenge him and I did. They've been using the whip for panfish and stuff like that and having a great time. So definitely try that. Steel City Fishing, you guys still at the top team for the SSF. In teams, yes. In teams, there's been no other entries from the other 3 teams. Let me just check my emails right now. Yeah, no other teams have entered a fish yet. So we're holding pretty good right now, but it's a long weekend. They definitely could get out over the next 3 days and absolutely crush it. But like I said early on, both Dave and Zoltan and I are going to be out over the next 2 days. So we're looking really good for some upgrades. Whips are just bream busters. I don't know. I like the idea of whipping out a whip for crappie. I can think of a bunch of spots that I have locally where that would be good. I didn't make time to do that this year, and with the heat the way it was, I didn't hear of anybody getting into crappie like we normally do. Water seemed to be a little bit lower. It was definitely warmer in the spots that I like to fish them. So I haven't actually been out to try for panfish myself at all. There's definitely a really hot spot in the spring that I'm going to take it next year. That's for sure. So we'll have to go from there, but that's coming. Darn it. I hate it when there are more fishing things that I need to buy. Oh, well, no point fighting capitalism. You can't watch these live streams without me mentioning gear. I'm a gear nut, just like a lot of us. If there's something new to try, and it fits with the types of fishing that I'm interested in, then yeah, I'm going to grab it up. I'm going to try and track them down. A lot of times, a lot of these items are made out of necessity to make it more efficient or practical to fish for the fish that you want to. It very rarely is it just done for fun. It's usually to be more efficient or more practical. At least that's what I tell myself. When my wife sees another package show up, why do you have that? Don't you already have stuff like that? This makes it more efficient because I can reach in under a bridge and I can actually like jig it a lot better rather than trying to cast and smashing my floats against the concrete. You know, it's more efficient. It's much better. But just stick with that. Oh. There should be a way to just not ever let wives see fishing equipment. There's got to be. I don't know what else to tell you. So yeah, with the way the season's going, you know, the match season's pretty much wrapped up. There's a pickup match coming up that I'm looking forward to. The SSF that we're in right now is going to be over in a couple of days. For a lot of members, that kind of wraps up their carp season. Obviously, I want to get a little bit more carp fishing in as we kind of get later in the year. But it is, in fact, salmon time. I apologize that we've not put a salmon video up on the channel yet this fall. Haven't had one yet. I did get out and try a tactic that Dave kind of put me on to called plunking. I had a session kind of early September to try that out, and I didn't catch a salmon. I caught a bass. I was getting bored of the plunking. It wasn't doing anything, so I put it on a little crocodile spoon and blasted that out. And you know when you're spoon chucking and you get that drift that just feels perfect, where it sinks the right way with the right amount of tension as it starts to thump in the current, you know, where it's kind of getting this little wobble, and you feel every little thump perfectly timed Like it's not hitting any swells that kind of break the flow or the pattern of the wobble. You got the right amount of tension. It's not pulling too hard. Everything feels perfect. And you're just like, I know I'm getting a bite on this cast. Without a shadow of a doubt, I'm getting a bite on this cast. And you're feeling that. And it's just thump, 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 thump. Everything's good. You're not hitting bottom contact, but you know you're close. You're just getting that thump, thump, thump. And then all of a sudden, boom, you get that bite. You knew it was coming. You get that bite. You set the hook. The rod doubles over and you're in. Well, I had that, but it wasn't a salmon. It was a bass. It was a nice little smallmouth. It was a good little fight on the trout rod, but it's not why I was there. It wasn't a blank for that day. I went somewhere where the salmon should have been sitting, but there was no other anglers in sight, and everybody further upriver in places like the Whirlpool, the Glen, stuff like that. On the American side, the same stretch, people were hitting salmon. They're hitting browns. I went and I was a little bit downstream of them because I was sore. I needed easier access in and out. I couldn't do those stairs at either the Whirlpool or the Glen that day. I had done a number of trips down in the Glen chasing the buffalo for like kind of in between episode 3 and episode 4. I had been down there a bunch of times. So I couldn't do the gorge. It was just going to be too much on the body. I'm old. I'm fat. I have my days. Okay. It's just how it is. So I went somewhere with it where it was a lot more easy access, and I didn't get a salmon. I got a bass, but the salmon time is here. I'm going to be getting down as soon as I can to try and get myself a salmon on camera. I know Dave's going to be onto that as well. And we're getting right into the thick of it for brown time. They should be moving in really thick soon. Lake trout should be spawning right now. Lake trout closes October 1st, doesn't open again until December 1st in our area. So as much as the river should be freaking choked with lake trout right now and for the next few weeks, we can't fish for them. But as the salmon kind of dwindle off, the browns start to dwindle off, and the lake trout season opens, steelhead should really come into its own. And I'm really, really excited to be getting heavily into the trout fishing this fall. From November to like mid-January last year, I had a phenomenal time catching trout in a few different spots. But I kind of earned my way into one spot fishing with a lot of the old guys that just kind of go every day. I earned my way in, giving them their space, paying attention to their casting patterns and drifting with them, so I'm not tangling with them. And I caught fish. And that's one key thing. If you're following all the rules and you catch fish, you earn the respect of the other guys on the bank. Once I kind of had an understanding of how they were doing it, I went to the other side, the other area away from them, did my own thing, was very well rewarded. You guys saw the videos earlier in the spring from that effort. I'm going to be doing that again this year, but I'm going to be kind of focusing more on my own thing and not necessarily fishing with the group, because now I understand how the flow goes, so I can fish across from them without tangling with them, stuff like that. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to trout this fall and into the winter. My son would like it too. He always wants to fish the high risk, high reward spots, but his casting skills aren't there yet. This might work out well for it. It's short range. You're not casting in any way, but it's precision. It's real precision fishing. Where do I get my whips? So one of them I got from a flea market. The 12-foot one that I have, I also got one for Dave that he's been using. I got those from Decathlon in Burlington when they had them. I don't see much point in going into a Decathlon anymore. They tend to have nothing here anymore related to fishing. Amazon, Alibaba, or AliExpress, just type in whip. There's a few different types. The way you attach the line is a little bit different. There's there's like a piece of cord that comes off the end of the really, really light tipped ones. You tie a really secure, like double overhand loop knot in the end of it, and then you loop your line over that cord, pull it tight so it gets stuck around that knot, and that's how you attach it. Some of them also have a little clip, like the little 12-foot ones that Dave and I have a clip that you can kind of just notch it in and slide a sleeve over it. So there is some things to learn with how you attach things to a whip, but there's tons of videos on how to use a whip from UK anglers out there. But it's fun. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, you can just type in 5 meter whip. So 5 meter whip is going to be about 15, 16 feet, something like that. There's a bunch of, like, China just kicks these out like crazy. So it's a pretty minimal investment for, something to try. You don't have to spend much money on it. Just keep in mind that they usually go by meters. So a 3 meter one's going to be 9 feet, 4 meter, 12 feet, and so on. But yeah, it's worth a try, I think, for how cheap you can get these things as something to play with. Then it just goes up from there. And then, like, the further up you go, you can get them from some of the UK shops where they're elasticated whips. So it's the same thing, but it's got like a small section of elastic to cover the shock of hooking some bigger fish. And that's what I started on. I started using an elasticated whip as practice for a pole that I borrowed from somebody. And I was hooked immediately, and then went right to ordering myself an old used pole. But yeah, I think a whip is something that would definitely be good to try. The gorge is a hike for even a young, healthy person. Yeah. I can remember when I was young, and I wouldn't necessarily say healthy. When I was young, I would often go down in the morning, fish all morning, go up, ride my bike somewhere for lunch, ride back, go down, fish all afternoon, ride back, go home. So I would be up and down there in some cases twice. I can remember, in my late teens, early 20s, I was a smoker at that point. We'd walk halfway up, stop for a smoke, walk the rest of the way up. No problem. I take like 10 breaks on the way out now. It's it's definitely a young man's game to get in and out of there. The fact that Dave and I were in and out of the gorge, 3 times during the last birthday session, that was insane. That was so much hiking and walking, and the gear that we were carrying, certainly at the start of the day, Dave had the 2 backpacks. One was full of food, one was full of his gear. I had all my gear. We had a bunch of rods, the camera equipment. How the 2 of us came out of there uninjured, I don't know. It definitely messed with Dave's brain, because when we left the one location, and he just drove the wrong way completely out of it before we went to the second location. Yeah, it definitely, if you're not built for that, don't do it. It's not safe. It's not safe. I was planning on going to Lower Niagara on my vacation this week, but I broke my toe. I don't think I can make the hike. You broke your toe. That's at the front of your feet. So you wrap it up, you take a crutch or a cane, and you just give her. Just give her. I don't know if a broken toe would keep me from going. But don't push it. Don't push it on my advice. It's, oh man, it's not easy getting in and out of there in any spot. You could maybe try fishing from shore at Queenston, just up from the boat launch. There's a few swims there where you could fish. That would minimize your walking, and you could probably, like, take a small stool with you and sit on the stool and still actively and effectively cast. I think the hike would be less strain on your toe than standing there fishing would be. I think the standing and fishing would be the toughest part. I'll say this though. If you go broken toe and all, send us some pictures. Get a fish, send us some proud broken toe fish moments. That would be awesome. What's your baiting strategy for carp there with current being so strong? Doesn't matter if I'm on the upper river, lower river, parts of the St. Lawrence, Welland River. If I'm fishing for carp with current and I've got to do some baiting, heavy particles. So maize, it's going to sink pretty quickly. If you get pellets, the larger size pellets will sink quickly. I try to avoid sweet corn. Don't typically try to use oats. Like if I was going to do a pack bait ball, which would get down quickly, I try not to do too much with like sweet corn and oats because it just flutters away too quickly once it is on the bottom. So it kind of defeats the purpose of having a pocket of bait like that. Boilies, carp in the river love boilies. The downside is that they roll. So if you're on a stretch with where the flow is, where it's relatively flat bottom or relatively smooth bottom with minimal rock, those boilies will just keep rolling. So I try to do chops. Not only that, but I like to soak them so they're heavier. So like my mix for this past week, the last few sessions I cooked up maize. I threw the maize in a bucket with the water that I boiled it in. So I strained out all the maize, put it in a pail, mixed in some of the DT Superfruit DNA liquid, and kind of let that all mix into the bait. I threw the boilies in, mixed that in with the maize and the liquid, added more liquid because the DT liquids, I don't have a bottle handy, but the DT DNA liquids, you shake them really well, you get them on your bait. It's really good stuff. And a lot of times you can almost notice it's not there. The way the scents kind of blend with everything you're putting together, you get the subtle note of that scent, but it's not overpowering like a lot of other ones are. So I really like the DT liquids. But I got the bait in there, added some more liquid, and then I take the water that I boiled the maize in, and I pour it over top of all that to fill it up, like maybe that much above all the bait. The boilies soak a lot of that up, makes them heavier and softer. So when you're putting it all out there, everything sinks really, really fast down to the bottom. And then when the fish get onto them, they're not having to do any work to eat those boilies. You know, they get it back to their pharyngeal teeth and it crushes like really squishy. So like Tuesday night was a prime example. I had more fish on the bottom bait than I did on the pop-up. I had a bottom bait out there, which was just a Superfruit boilie, which was the same boilies I had put in my mix. And that one wasn't soaked or anything. That one was obviously like a hard right out of the bag. Actually, it was out of the bottom of my backpack because I spilled a bag of boilies in there during the social and I never cleaned them out. So I just reached to the bottom of my backpack and, oh, there's a boilie, put it on there. I had two of my fish to that fishing over that mix. So it worked out really well, just heavier particles. If you want to use pack bait, I would say like oats work, panko works. They're great. You can get them kind of mixed up and wet with scent, but it makes them too sticky. So when it does hit the bottom, it breaks down pretty quickly and just washes away. Mixing ground bait in with it, like a stick mix in with it, helps kind of heavy it down. It takes less of the lighter particles, makes it a little bit more of a dense ball, and takes longer to break down. So if you are going to do pack bait or method feeders, put more ground bait in than the light particles like oats or panko. Shandor's here. Happy Thanksgiving weekend. I'm late. We'll watch it back later. Good to see you're here. Hopefully the next match that they do, you'll be able to swing out to that one. I know with the little one, it's kind of kept you off the bank, but be nice to see you at a match again certainly next year you'll have to hit a bunch of them. And then next year you can also do the SSFs again, because if I remember right, you did really well in the spring one. I figured using just the biggest, heaviest possible particle baits to help keep your chum in your trap. Yes, exactly that. But like I said, kind of mixing some of them so that you have a few different things, right? The biggest thing about ground bait is that it kind of gets into the bottom a little bit more. Obviously, because it's light, it drifts away. But when it's like wet and packed and kind of mixed with your stuff, it kind of stays as a heavy ball and it kind of flakes away. Whereas oat hits the bottom, breaks down, washes away. Ground bait holds together a lot better, longer. That's why I would mix ground bait in with that stuff a little bit more than I would if I was fishing a still water. So that's an interesting statement. 100% I believe bottom baits will outperform in heavier currents. I disagree with that. And I disagree with that primarily because I 90% of the time use pop-ups in heavy current. When we look at the Niagara River, the St. Lawrence River, the Welland River, stuff like that, where I am fishing a lot of flow, I'm pretty much always using a pop-up because there's always silkweed drifting on the bottom, and I want my hook bait above that. If silkweed kind of connects with the line below the bait and kind of gathers up around it, my pop-up's still sitting proud above it. I find that bottom baits get covered up way too quickly, so it's a lot harder for the fish to find them in heavy flow. I'm not going to take away from how effective bottom baits are. Typically, if I'm fishing 3 rods, pink, white, yellow, all pop-ups. And then based on fish reaction and response, I change things up at that point. If I find that they're just not hitting the pop-ups, one will become a bottom bait, see what that does. If it produces fish, great. Might switch another rod to a wafter rather than a pop-up. But I'm always trying, I've talked about this many times in some videos and some live streams. I'm always trying to kind of do that elimination game. If I catch a fish on something, it's not a blank. Everything at that point can become a learning experience. So trying different colors on the same spot. Is it color? Is it the spot? Trying different hook baits. Is it pop-up? Is it wafter? Is it bottom bait on the same spot? Again, is it the bait or the spot? If it turns out that it's not the spot, that it is the bait, try that bait in other spots. Did it work? It's all trial and error, and it always changes. So I would never, ever say that bottom baits will outperform in heavier currents, because I just don't agree. But at times, it can happen. And Tuesday was an example where it did. But the Sunday prior, nothing touched the bottom bait. I only got bites on the pop-up. Same spot, same bait mix. It's just the way it was. So yeah, always changing, always evolving, but you have to always be trying the different things to know. If you just always go with bottom baits, you're going to have success, no doubt. But there's going to be some sessions where, had you switched to a pop-up or a wafter, your results would have changed. Yeah, it's not like trout fishing where you could just you could run a float with a single egg and you get a bite, and you run a float with a single egg and get a bite. When guys are doing that, I'll run a streamer fly through and I'll get a bite. It's weird. It's the best part about fishing, is that just when you think you got it figured out, you don't. So we always have something else to try. We always have something else to figure out, and we always have new gear to get. I always mix it regardless, because you never know. Bingo. Key statement. We should just get t-shirts that say, "I love fishing because you never know." It's really all it comes down to. Oh, even though that was cold, that was damn good. I'm going to have another before I do anything else today. And based on the fact that my wife's messaging me already, I probably have things to do today. I certainly have to get the kid off of his game because he's yelling at it. I'm itching to get out. Yes, I'm a bit busy, but I'm with family this weekend around Napanee. Brought my fishing stuff. Maybe I can sneak out Sunday or Monday morning. I know some good spots around here. There's a few really good spots near there. Like right in the middle of town there's a fountain. Good spots. Yeah, great area for fishing. There is a few stretches that are like fish sanctuaries in that area. Check the regulations for those. But there is some really good fish to be had up in that area for sure. So yeah, if you can sneak out, get a fish. I think it's time to wrap up the live stream. Pretty much check on how the wife is doing and what she needs me to run around and do. Get the kid away from his game, put him in the yard. I think it's just one of those days today. Looks like the rain stops, so everything should be good that way. There's Doug. We mentioned earlier, Tim showed up. We just needed Doug. Like everybody was here. And then Clint left. And we were like, it's okay. We just need Doug. Now Doug's here. Better late than never. Absolutely. Joined late, but thanks for the information. Much appreciated. That's what we're here for. That's what the live stream's all about. Chatting, interacting. Like I said, if there's a question that I can't answer, somebody in this chat knows. I sound like that playing video games. You know what? Back in the day when Call of Duty was like the new big thing, you know, before my son was born, and you know, for a short time after when he was really small, nights in the chair with the headset and just gaming, yelling, screaming. It was awesome. Can't do that anymore. Chad is awesome. Yes, the Chad is awesome. The Chad's chiming in late. Tyler, I mentioned you earlier. Pop in at the end. See you later. Yeah, you know what? Great live stream, everybody. We had a fair bit of stuff to talk about. So some things coming up real quick. Part 2 of me trying to catch a buffalo. That's coming up. I think it was supposed to be last week or the week before, but I was at the social, so I kind of messed all my schedule up. I'm working on the edit for that now. That should go up next week. The only way that won't go up next weekend is if somehow Dave or I do a video catching a salmon before that, then that will be bumped. Oh, there's Craig. He's late too. Everybody's late. Oh man, it was a good one too. So yeah, part 2 of the trying to catch my first buffalo. That will be coming up soon. Like I said, it's in the same location and tactics as the first one with way more fish. And then things get crazy from episode 3 and 4. So those will be coming down the line. Like I said, the only thing that's going to bump those out of the schedule is salmon and trout videos, just because that's what's relevant now for the area. And that's only if we catch them. So we're going to wrap up the SSF here over the next couple of days. The match season has wrapped up. There's one pickup match coming. But I'm going to be jumping onto the salmon train very, very quickly. And we'll discuss a lot of that in the November live stream of how that kind of gets kicked off and started. Should be full swing for trout at that point. Certainly browns, hopefully some rainbows. We'll probably talk in November more as we get going with the prepping for ice fishing season. Now that I have the hut that I've always wanted, I'm sure me and the Chad will be getting in that for walleye this year. I know I will be. There's no way that I'm going to go and start catching them and he's not going to be like, I want to go too. So that'll happen. As of right now, to answer your question, Doug, there are no current matches planned for the Waterloo region, but that area keeps getting brought up. So we're hoping to add some locations for that next year. I know Justin and Brian have talked about that. I know a few people have mentioned it. Yes, we should hook up for ice fishing. Last year, it didn't quite work out, but you kept me posted. Ice fishing was tough last year because we had a very small window. But yeah, match fishing for that area. Your area is being looked at a lot. And like I mentioned earlier, if you've got other match anglers in your area, get together as kind of like a social get together, kind of build an informal match club that could turn into something else. And maybe we can get the match clubs to like pop up and have friendly competition between clubs. That would be awesome. You know, if there's some guys down near like Windsor, some guys in Kitchener, Waterloo, some guys, around Oshawa, some guys here in Niagara, it would be really cool to have interclub matches. That would be a lot of fun. But yeah, sorry for those of you that popped in late. I'm going to wrap this up at this point. I'm going to try and get that bivvy to you before ice fishing happens. I'm trying to find a part for it. It's in here somewhere. Once I have that, then I can set everything up and send you the pictures. If I showed you the pile right now, I'm doing some work to build some new shelves. So I've got everything on the floor and everything's buried. And I moved all that stuff for that bivvy on top. And it doesn't have some of the parts. So they're at the bottom of the other pile. I got to get you the pictures first, but I expect to try and get that to you before ice fishing because my wife wants to go to your area. So we're going to wrap up this live stream for now. Sorry for those who came in late, but it was a good one. Good chatting. Thanks to everybody that dropped in. All of you awesome regulars that always pop in. Good to see you there, even if you got in late. Great questions from you, Steel City Fishing. Nice to see you in there. You know, Ben, Tim, all of you guys. Clint took off already, so we don't need to mention him. Dave Newman doing it from the bank and catching fish in between. Yeah, all you guys are awesome. Glad you're all there. And yeah, Grimy, keep up. Well, let's see the worm grunting results. Friggin' Clint. Yeah, he had to go to work. Can't fault him for that. It's just how it works. But another good live stream, guys. Thanks for participating. Thank you all, for being part of it again and being here month after month. Really appreciate it. Hope you guys are liking the content that has been coming out, and I hope you're looking forward to what's coming down the line. We will see you in November.